Hi guys! Today I'm coming to you with another video of an art project that you can do from home, and I'm going to show you a bunch of different material options so that just about anybody can do it depending on what materials you have access to. So today we're going to be making some wild, wacky hair portraits. You can do it as a drawing, or I also show how to do it with some cutout faces. So these are some of my old yearbook pictures from school that I just cut apart because I have like a million of these sitting around my office for whatever reason. But you can also do it with like pictures from newspapers or magazines or whatever. Really the only thing that you definitely need to do this project with is some kind of piece of paper, some kind of pigment to create color, and some creativity. So I'm gonna show you guys how to get started on this. Alright, let's go. Okay, so before we start, I'm gonna show you some material options. So obviously you need paper. One option that I grabbed is just a piece of like pretty thin print paper, or you can just do this on a piece of like notebook paper. It doesn't really matter. It'll work on both. You also need some kind of drawing tool, so that could be as complicated as some really nice oil pastels or colored pencils. I'm just going to use a ballpoint pen because I'm pretty sure most people have that in their house. I guess I took this from Chick-fil-A. Whoops. And then last, you're going to need some paint. So I grabbed 4 different paint options. If you have some kind of water-based paint, some liquidy watercolor type paint, awesome. But I have 3 other options for you. So in a previous video, I showed how you can use some nice dark coffee as paint, and since this is crazy hair, coffee would totally work. A lot of people's hair is brown, and you can make it darker or lighter to add some variety. I've just started soaking these markers in water. I'm sure a lot of people have seen the marker watercolor trick. I just took their lids off and put them in about 5 minutes ago, and these are already starting to make nice colors. I think some people have probably seen on the internet how you can take them apart and get the little sponge out. I've never actually done that, but we're going to try. Whoop. So if you have a parent with some wire cutters who wants to get a little messy with you today, this might be a great way to take some old markers. This works great with those markers that are like, you think are dead. Because a lot of times it's just because all the liquid left in that sponge is stuck up there. But you can pop that little sponge out, and I'm pretty sure that that's all nice dark liquid in there. So if you have somebody who's willing to help you with that, you could really make some really good pigmented watercolor. But if you don't have a wire cutter, or your parents aren't going to let you use a wire cutter by yourself, and you don't have anybody to help you, just soaking these markers in water will work just fine. And the longer you let them soak, the better your color is going to be anyway. So I'm going to let just the blue keep soaking. I'm going to go ahead and pop off one of these reds though. And then your last paint option is just like some food coloring. A lot of people have this in their kitchen. I just grabbed some from mine. This is what you use to, like, I don't know, make frosting different colors or something. I have no idea why I have this. I don't bake. But I wouldn't use straight food coloring. It's going to make your hands even worse than this. But you can just, you know, drop a few drops into some water to make some water paint. Food coloring usually comes in like your 3 primary colors plus green. I don't know why green's always the extra one. Like, why not orange or purple? I love green though, so it's okay. But what's cool is you can mix these two pretty easily. So I'm going to make some yellowy green, mix up some red and yellow to make orange. I'm I might just leave this blue regular blue. So those are your 4 different paint options. So what you're gonna do is you just need to start with a picture of you. And like I said, you can use a drawing tool and draw it. This can be as complicated or as simple as you want. I'm just gonna do a quick little sketch of myself. It doesn't have to be a self-portrait, but I think that it's kind of fun to turn yourself into a self-portrait for this project. So you can see how sketching sometimes, you know, even though it's like not perfect and you make mistakes and you go over them again, for this style of project, since it's going to be kind of wild and crazy, all of those different kind of lines joining together to create your picture actually kind of fits this style. So don't stress out if you don't have an eraser or if you can't make this perfect. Now I haven't done the hair yet, and what's really important to think about is you don't just want to draw a round bald head and have hair sticking out of the top, because that looks weird. Your hair doesn't grow out of the top of your head. You have a hairline down here. So you want to kind of draw where your hairline is, but instead of drawing your hair normal, I'm just going to lightly make a space where my hair usually would be growing. So that's like if you buzzed your hair, where would it be? So usually my hairline kind of runs right along here. So this is where my hair would start on my forehead, but then my head, like my whole skull, is up here. So this space is where your hair grows out of, and it's not just on the top, it comes down on the sides too, down to kind of where your ears are. So this is where I'm gonna add my paint to kind of explode out. I like to make myself kind of shocked or surprised when I draw this because it's a wild, crazy picture. If I drew this drawing again though, I would probably make my head a little smaller, move it down a little bit more, because I don't have a whole bunch of room right here to create my wild hair, but that's okay. So the next thing you're gonna do is you're gonna start making your hair explode. Oh, I forgot one really important tool. Hold on while I grab it. The tool I totally forgot is a straw. You definitely need a straw. Now I have some nice long plastic straws that'll work great. But if you don't have a straw, you can take a piece of paper and roll it up. And you just need to roll it really, really tight. So the smaller you make it, the better. And then you can tape it or rubber band it or just hold it still. But a rolled up piece of paper will totally work. Something you can just blow air through. So what you're gonna do is you're just gonna gather your paint kind of in puddles just in this space right here. And then you're gonna blow it out and it's gonna explode. So you really want your puddle to kind of gather right there. So I'm gonna just start with some watercolor. I don't know how these paints are. I've actually never used them before. They're like brand new. But you need a nice dark liquid, so you want to really swirl that paintbrush around. And instead of like smearing your paint, I just kind of glob it so it makes like a little puddle right there. Now just start on one spot, take your straw, and blow. And it'll make your hair kind of explode out. So what's cool about this is you can really get pretty creative with the colors you do. You can, if you've dreamed about just always having purple hair, you could totally just stick with one color. Or you can kind of mix up your colors for a more interesting look or just a wild or crazier look. So you could stick with a color scheme like all cool colors. You could create a rainbow going across your hair. Or you can just kind of be random with it. So one thing that I suggest doing is kind of doing this in layers or stages. And so what that means is I'm going to do a layer of hair all the way through here. So this whole kind of scalp area, I'm going to fill up, but then I'm going to let it dry. And the reason I'm doing that is because I want to go back and do a second layer and kind of let them overlap without mixing. Because right now you can see how the green and the purple mixed as I blew it out. And I want to have some layers that crisscross but don't mix colors. And so they'll mix as long as they're both wet. But if the first layer is dry, the second layer on top won't mix up. If you can't get it to go very far, sometimes it just means you didn't put enough paint there. So you might have to go back, grab some more paint, glob it back on right there so you can see how it kind of becomes a puddle again almost. And then keep going. So I've got pretty much my whole hairline, this area where my hair grew, my scalp filled up with paint, and it's kind of exploded out in different directions. I'm gonna let this layer dry while I show you another alternative to this project, and then I'm gonna go back to this picture and do a second layer and show you what that does. So I'm just gonna set that aside. So another option, if you are not good at drawing, don't feel like drawing, or just don't have any drawing materials, but you have access to coffee or food coloring or something like that, I just went and pulled out a bunch of old yearbook pictures that I haven't done anything with. But like, I have so many of these just sitting around, and I bet your parents do too. So I'm just gonna cut my face out of some of these and stick them onto a piece of paper and do it. If your parents are willing to part with that great, big, beautiful portrait of you, that's a perfect size for a piece of paper. Or you can just do a bunch of little pocket ones. I mean, it might even be kind of fun to just have a bunch of crazy Miss Ellis's all over here with their hair exploding in different directions. But I just grabbed 4 different medium-sized ones. I'm gonna cut this out, but when I cut it out, I'm gonna cut around my face, and I'm going to cut along that edge where my skin is, but not my hair. Okay, so next you want to stick these on your paper. You can decide, oh, I've got a bunch of pieces of paper here. You can decide if you want them to all, like, maybe they're all friends and they just all have crazy hair together, and so they just line up with each other. They could be all spread out. You know, you might just be doing one with hair just going everywhere. Or they could just, I don't know, be all over the place. I think I'm gonna line mine up like this. And this will let me show you guys kind of the 4 different options that we have. Actually, so you guys can see all of our material choices. I might do them going this way and do a couple pieces of paper. But again, it really just depends on the materials you have access to. You can get as creative with this, how you lay out your little pictures as you want. By the way, you don't have to do this with you. Got some little pictures of your little brother? Payback. Or you can just use like pictures from a magazine or a newspaper and glue them on here. Or tape them, whatever you really have access to. If you've got little glue dots, rubber cement, I've got some glue sticks. Ooh, that one's dead. That'll work. So just needing to get them to stick to your paper. Man, you guys, I look so much better with hair than without hair. Okay, so we're gonna try each of our paints we have here. Also, if you don't have a paintbrush, an earlier video I showed how you can just use a Q-tip for paint, and this project, that works really well actually, because you really just want to gather little globs of paint. So remember on here, my hair was right here, but it also kind of came down here, so I'm gonna glob a bunch of paint here. If you even decide that you are a perfectionist and you want to kind of sketch where like that little area where your hair would be, you know, like the rest of your head. So down here, that's hair that like hangs down, but this is where I'm going to kind of gather my little puddles. Ooh, there's going to have to be a lot right there to make up for that size of head. So I'm going to start with my marker watercolors. They've been soaking for a minute. These little sponges have been soaking. Ooh, I can squeeze out a lot of really good dye with these. That's awesome. Careful. So if you want to use a Q-tip, just soak it up and then kind of glob a little bit on there. And what's nice about these yearbook pictures is the paint will just wipe right off of them, I think. Let's see. Looks like that yellow could have used a little more soaking, but that's okay. I don't have any more Q-tips with me, but hopefully you have more than one. I'm gonna try some of this blue watercolor. Ooh. So this art project is really just about experimenting with a new material and a new art process. The other thing that's cool is as these colors mixed, you guys notice I only used really primary colors to make these watercolors, but my yellow and my blue mixed and made green, which I'm sure most of you guys have learned in school, because that's what happens when you mix two primary colors. You get a secondary color. So there it is with my marker watercolors. Now remember, these only have been soaking for like maybe 30 minutes. So the longer you let them soak, the darker their color will be on your paper. These are pretty light colors, but if you like the light colors, stick with it, or you can water them down even more. Also, the more markers you put in there, the darker your colors will be. And remember, even if they're dried up markers, if they have any color on the end, they will make watercolor. And you will know that because they'll start turning white. So all that, even the dried upness, will become color again because it's getting wet. So on this little lady, I think you're going to try my coffee mixture. So this is just really dark coffee. So I just brewed it a few different times. That's awesome. Also, what's great about doing this with more than one face, whether you drew them on or cut them out, is the hair will mix, which is kind of cool. So I could even do like a red one, then a yellow one, then a blue one, and then like the red and yellow where they cross would turn orange. So this is just an awesome art project that doesn't require a lot of materials, but is just great to experiment with. Next, I'm going to do my food coloring. Just like the markers, with your food coloring, the less water you have, actually same with coffee too, the more of just the pigment you get, the darker your color will be. Now what's nice with food coloring is you've got a lot of it. So if you really want a more vibrant color, a couple more drops is probably all it takes. And my last option, the one I showed you guys the first time, is just your regular old school watercolor. Or if you don't have watercolor but you have paint that comes like in a bottle or a tube, just squirt some out on a plate or in a little bowl or cup and mix it with a little water, just so it's more liquidy. You just need to be able to blow it across your paper. So there are kind of your 4 different techniques. You can see that with something like watercolor, it's obviously easiest to make the most like vibrant colors. But with something like your markers or coffee or even food coloring, what's really cool is as they dry, you can definitely go back and do another layer, and those will still mix and cross and still create a really cool kind of see-through-y effect. So I could totally go back and add another layer on here. Same with your coffee. If you watch my other video using coffee, you probably saw that you can layer the coffee color and it will get darker the more layers you put on there. So there's some of my wild crazy hair portraits. And remember how I said I wanted that one to dry pretty good to do another layer? Well, it's pretty dry. Pretty dry. So now what I can do, the paper isn't like wet to the touch anymore, it's just a little tiny bit damp, but it'll be okay. If you want to dry it quicker, you can use like a hair dryer or set it on the sun. Is that I can go back now with other colors and do a second layer and watch them crisscross these lines. So you can see how when I did the yellow over the orange, you can just see the orange lines coming through because I let the orange lines dry before I did another color on top. The colors that I did on top of each other while they were still wet mixed together. So just two different kind of techniques you can experiment with. Well, that's it. I really hope that you enjoyed learning about this new art technique. I hope that you make some like just crazy portraits or self-portraits. Remember the format, the size, the colors, the layering. That's all stuff that you can really get creative with and experiment with. You know, this picture would look really different if it was colored in or if it was done with Sharpie. You know, you can even mix some of these different materials that I showed you. So, you know, if you love like the watercolor, but you want to see what happens when you put some food coloring on the watercolor, you do the coffee first and then the colors on top of it. Do it, try it. Please share what you create with me because I would love to see the different versions that you guys make. So I hope you enjoyed this video and I hope you enjoy creating these wacky hair self-portraits at home. Bye guys, thanks for watching.